But I think the ISC report is a very important report because it's a group of expert security cleared members of parliament who basically are sequestered into a room to look at information about the subject they're considering. They then produce a report that then gets batted back and forth. There's a process between what the civil service will allow to be published and the security services versus what they would like to have published. And eventually you get a report that comes out. And the fact that this report is so damning, even though no doubt much information has been redacted from it, much has been removed, tells you the scale of the problem we face in this country, that China is indeed trying to infiltrate at every level here, whether it's universities, businesses, critical infrastructure, attempting to work its way through. And I think the other worrying part of the report is not simply the scale of this, but seemingly the lack of response of the government to date about this. And clearly, the MPs are concerned at what the UK's response is to this and should be to this. And the government's got a lot of work to do to explain how it's going to secure our economy and our society going forwards from what everyone agrees is going to be the major threat of this coming century. I mean, we have been warning about this in the Henry Jackson Society since we started back in 2005. The idea being that when you have a society controlled by a communist party, even if it's turned its back on communist economics, it hasn't on communist control and communist views on human rights and such like, you're always going to end up having a conflict over values, over ideas, over systems of government between you and that country. And yes, you could pretend for a while that it wasn't critical, that you could all get along and trade and, you know, sort of work together in that respect. But ultimately, that's not how communist parties work. Communist parties want control. They want dominance. They need dominance because any sort of challenge to them is a threat. And the Chinese have, of course, adopted this strategy very cleverly of let's not make too much of noise internationally while we burrow deep into countries' economies, and we'll lull people into a false sense of, you know, that we're working together on the ideas, but it's not going to change the reality, which is they're going, understandably from their perspective, to try and reclaim China's position as top dog internationally. Now, we've only got ourselves to blame for not realizing that. Had we collectively gone, Communist Party, inherently bad, cannot be anything other than an attempt to challenge, you know, sort of the West, if you like, in the world, we would have had a very different outcome to this, wouldn't we?